And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Peter J. Redding, and this is Tuesdays with Peter. I don't know why it tickles me, it just it tickles me. So we continue our series. We have 18, 19, 20, 21. This is, we'll have 3 more after today, but 4 more sessions on positively brilliant self-mastery. The book I wrote back in 2008. With a whole bunch of contributors contributing stories. Today, the contributor is none other than Peter J. Redding. I don't know if I ran out of contributors. I just wanted to write this one myself. I don't really actually remember, but I'll share that one with you today. Okay, so in the process of writing this book, Positively Brilliant Self-Mastery, for me, was about some things in terms of on the human level. In other words, the attitudes and beliefs that I have acquired as a human being. So we talked about that in the first eight chapters or so. The final 12 of the chapters are all about the, if you will, the God-given endowments. So we've gone through life purpose, we've gone through core values, we're now into core strengths, or God-given gifts and talents, if you will. And let me switch over to today is about, or this section, section 5, the final section of the book is section 5, using your innate gifts. In other words, the talents and gifts that you've been given by your creator. And one of the quotes that I have here for this whole section is, our talents are the gift that God gives to us. What we make of our talents is our gift back to God. Don't know Leo. Never heard of him before, but thank you, Leo, for that. And I really believe that that is true. That my natural gifts and talents, as opposed to my developed talents, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the description here in a minute. But my natural gifts and talents are talents that I give back to my planet. I contribute to my fellow citizens of the world. That is giving it back to God in the sense of Leo's words. So I love that, just categorically love that. Section 5, using my innate gifts, you are guided towards knowing, living, and celebrating your innate gifts. We use, grow, strengthen, and in some cases, master some skills and talents. But these skills and talents that we have worked so hard at are innate gifts, question mark? Maybe not. In many cases, I find that my clients and students know 1 or 2 of their innate gifts and have employed these gifts in their lives. But even these are not fully employed or integrated into their lives. Sadly, I have not met anyone who fully knows, appreciates, and is using the full power of his or her divinely endowed innate gifts before a personal and conscious journey into himself or herself. During my lifetime, there have been a higher level of public awareness of not wasting our Earth's natural resources than there has been of not squandering our own divinely endowed resources in the form of our innate gifts. In other words, we've spent more time in terms of advertising, promoting, not to waste our natural resources on the planet, which I am a huge advocate of, by the way. The sad part that I'm referring to here is, what about the human resources? I mean, we actually call that in organizations. You know, I'm the VP of Human Resources, right? HR, Human Resources. So we talk about the development of human resources, but my estimate right now is that there's probably 90% of human resources that are not being employed in the world, 90% or more, 90%. Now, we have developed people in terms of the skill set that we want to have them develop for their jobs, for the job that they are being paid for. I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation on an organization's part. My calling to HR professionals and to the world and to organizations is, what if we had people that were more fully engaged, more fully matched with the job that we want them to do, that we're hiring them to do, paying them to do, that is more in alignment with their natural gifts and talents. Now, this is a personal responsibility, I believe, on the individual's part, to be aware of and to be the primary developer of their natural gifts and talents. But we are massively, collectively squandering the human resources that are right under our nose, quite literally, on a personal level, on a community level, on an organizational level, on an ecosystem level. And that saddens me. It does. So again, taking personal responsibility for myself, I've worked very diligently to do the work that I'm here to do and to utilize my natural gifts and talents of, I'll get into some of those in the story and in the write-up here. So, okay, back to the script, Peter. Where's the world's outrage about each of us squandering our innate gifts by not fully knowing, developing, using, and celebrating them? Where's that? Where's that? There are full-fledged public campaigns. Obviously, I was off on a tangent here when I was writing, but that's okay. We'll stay to the script because this is word for word what's in the book. There are full-fledged public campaigns to understand the impact of how we use and abuse our natural worldly resources. I have personally benefited from these public campaigns. I have. I would also applaud and welcome a similar or even bigger campaign to raise a level of awareness of the vast and mostly untapped natural resources that lies within each of us. And that's the one I was just referring to. I believe that 90% of our collective, natural, God-given, innate gifts, resource are not being utilized. 90% collectively, worldwide. What do you know about your own personal resources in the form of your innate gifts? Question mark. Yeah. What do you actually know what your natural gifts are, your innate gifts are? The cumulative effect of not using our innate gifts is a world filled with frustration rather than fulfillment, and a world filled with broken hearts rather than joyous hearts. This spills into every family unit, community, and organization. It can't help but. By each of us not knowing and living our positively brilliant selves, we have collectively created worldwide epidemics of shortage, lack, and waste. The great news is, since we each had a hand in creating these epidemics, we can each choose to do something about them. Hip, 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 hooray. I will go one step further. Each of us is the only one who can do this work for ourselves. And by transforming ourselves, we transform the world. Let it begin with me. It's not a new theme. We become happier and more productive by living our own lives and using our own innate gifts. Simultaneously, by using our own innate gifts, we contribute our best and brightest to our part of the world. Our part of the world literally becomes a better place to live for us as well as for those that we are here to serve. For the past 15 years, okay, so this would have been in 2008. So now for the last, well, twice that, probably almost 30 years, I've been consciously employing my innate gifts and creating safe space, listening with honor, championing, facilitating magnificence, loving, seeing the best in everyone, seeing conceptually, and communicating complex concepts so others can understand. Guess what? Those are my innate gifts. As a direct result, I have touched thousands with the principles contained in this book. I know I've made a significant and positive contribution to those I'm here to serve. By using my innate gifts in service of my innate life purpose while honoring my innate values, I am contributing my very best to my part of the world. All right. Now, is that being hubris? No. I'm incredibly humbled by reading this or rereading this now after, having written it 12, 14 years ago. God endowed me, my creator endowed me with these natural gifts and talents. And now I have had the honor to continue to develop those things, be aware of those things, and utilize those in basically every part of my day, every part of my life. So principle number 18, your innate gifts are an endowment, excuse me, your innate gifts are an endowment from your divine source, from your creator, from your higher power, whatever you refer to that as. And a story contributed by me, Peter J. Redding. We'll come back to the story here in a minute, but I want to share a little bit more of the text that comes right out of the book. Your innate gifts are an endowment from your divine source. And again, another quote from Paul Farini, who again, I've never met, but I've read some of his works and really resonate from where he comes from. And he has this prayer: help me to master my skills so that I may place them in your service, so that I may fulfill my purpose here. Allow me to complete my work on earth with care and humility, and return to you when my work here is done. May all veils and barriers that separate us dissolve so that I may dwell fully and completely in your love. Amen. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. So resonate with that. I am here as an instrument of my creator. Am I honoring the gifts and talents, strengths that he has endowed within this human form, within this body called Peter Redding, or not, or to what degree? And may I be in awareness, and may I be in service to my creator by using these natural gifts and talents. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Paul. Innate gifts are the third endowment from your divine source. Your innate gifts are part of your divine nature. My human nature has access to and is the steward of my innate gifts. So there's a both and here for me. The endowment comes from, I believe, a divine source, my creator. But it is endowed inside of a human body, inside of my human nature. What am I doing here? Where am I walking on the planet? How am I utilizing and employing these natural gifts or not? So back to the text, innate gifts are given as a lifelong endowment. They were not earned or awarded for any particular behavior. Innate gifts can never be taken away. They can, however, collect dust, be put on a shelf, and perhaps even be forgotten about by the person endowed. And this is all autobiographical, by the way, because for many, many years, all right, decades, I was unaware to the extent that I have been endowed with these gifts. Okay. Hopefully I've uncovered them. Hopefully I've used most of them. Hopefully I've developed most of them now. And maybe there's some even hidden ones that I haven't come yet into consciousness around. But they're still there. They were there at birth. They're here right now in this moment for me and for you. And they'll be there until we die. Your innate gifts will forever remain available to you to be remembered, developed, and used to help fulfill your innate life purpose. For a good part of my life, I was told that I had to learn and what skills were mandatory to be successful. I spent many decades of hard work developing skills and knowledge in areas of business management, finances, systems infrastructure. Before moving to Tokyo, Japan, I took intensive Japanese language training one-on-one with a Japanese tutor. Another whole story on that one. I gained a learned mastery. Okay, and I should have put this in quotes. I gained a learned mastery in each of these skill areas, and they serve me in the corporate world. But as I reflect on this massive time and energy I invested in mastering these skills, I realized I never got to a level of natural mastery, and I did not feel deeply fulfilled. On the other hand, developing my innate gifts has been satisfying and joyful. Mastery has come easily, and employing my innate gifts is as natural as breathing. Is that cool or what? So here's the story that I wrote way back when. A lifelong burden turns out to be a God-given gift. Who knew? I do now, but I didn't then. So here's my story. As a child, I was a primary listener for my mother. In my teens and 20s, I listened to my peers more than I spoke. Into my 30s and 40s, I was amazed at how insensitive many people were when they shared their opinion or judgment that slammed one or more of the people in the group. And the person sharing didn't seem to even notice the impact on those he had verbally put down or abused in some cases. In my late 30s and early 40s, I began to feel burdened by listening so deeply. Why do I hear things that others do not? Am I to point out to all the insensitive individuals to be more thoughtful in their sharing? I couldn't stop myself listening at a deep, intuitive, honoring, and compassionate level. I'd always been a good mediator because my keen listening skills allowed me to really hear what was important to each person. I could also hear the underlying nuances, motivations, and aspirations that were tied to each person's position or belief. Even though I was, and still am today, still great at mediation, I did not enjoy being in the constant environment of conflict and argument. In this environment, listening still felt like a burden. In my late 40s, I was introduced to the newly forming profession of personal life coaching. My gift of deep, compassionate, intuitive listening with honor turns out to be the primary competency to be a masterful life coach. I look back over my life to realize I had been a gifted listener my whole life. I have been developing my natural gift of listening since birth. My natural and powerful gift of listening is no longer a burden as a coach. Rather than being in an environment of conflict, I am now listening for what my clients want to create. I can hear my clients' vision, passions, aspirations, strengths, values, purpose, and yes, their own unique God-given gifts. So this is near and dear to me. This is near and dear to me of being told what you have to learn in order to be successful, being told what you have to learn in order to be accepted in my part of society, being told what I need to learn in order to whatever, was arduous for me. And I in some cases, I became competent in some of those things that I was, quote, made to learn. But competence doesn't necessarily mean joyfulness. It doesn't necessarily mean a natural mastery that I point out in what I just read. When I focused on compassionate listening, among other things, conceptual thinker, seeing the best in everyone that I meet, those are other natural gifts and talents that was endowed to me. When I spend time developing them, when I've spent time in understanding them, developing them even further, man, that feels good. And the current theme that you keep hearing from me in these Tuesdays with Peter, hopefully, is being true to yourself. Know yourself, be yourself, celebrate yourself. And this is with a big S self, core self, authentic self, original self. So with that, I see both Charles and Vivek, the twin brothers from different mothers, are here with us today. And Sunny just arriving, which is the third sibling, I think, in this triad of huge supporters of mine. What comes to you when you think about your own natural gifts and talents? What did I just read that may have touched you in a different way, and or remembrance of, yeah, when I'm being myself, when I'm using my natural talents of whatever they may be, and all of you I know have several. What would you like to share?
May I go first, Peter?
I'd love to have you go, Vivek. Go ahead, jump in. In fact, I'm going to add you a spotlight here.
Yep. Hi, Sunny. Hi, buddy. Charles, buddy. See, Peter, what comes to me, which is very simple, is that there is no. We may assume that. I believe that I might assume that I'm further developing my core ability, you know, whether it is to listen or to think or, you know, whatever it is. But I've experienced that learning, you know, in terms of developing versus the intuitive self-learning minus, you know, the involvement of my head is always taking place. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, it's like water finds its level. Yeah. And when the intuitive listening gift is exposed to listening environments, it just sort of, you know, it goes out and touches it. Mm-hmm. So eventually, I think even that happens on its own. That's the beauty of the core self. Mm-hmm. We cannot, I mean, I think that we may attempt to say that I develop something and I try to understand it. Yes, maybe I get the terminology, I get the ability to explain it. But it's just like the, you know, like the root of a tree that goes and finds its water on its own. Mm. It's so intuitive, and something suddenly shifts and suddenly changes when that root is brought near water. It just whoops, you know, it finds it.
Yeah.
So if I were to use another phrase, I would say that that intuitive learning, because it's core, my core gift or my core strength, therefore everything related to the core I has to be automatic, you know. It cannot be forced, and it cannot be the result of any effort. And that's I find that beauty, because I went and learned a hell of a lot of stuff, and I'm following none of it today. None of it, you know. It's my interests are so completely different. I mean, if I talk about leadership, I'll talk about it from the self, not from leadership modules as espoused by some Jack Welch or Peter Drucker or management principles. They've lost meaning because they're ever changing.
Yeah.
The intuitive core strength finds it finds its own, and it's beyond my comprehension how and all it gets there. And I found that even if I try to learn more of my core skill, I've maybe learned some terminology, you know, but I was never able to learn, enhance my core skill. That just happened automatically, like breathing, without my knowing.
Well, I love your perspective of the naturalness of it. And I agree with 100% of what you just said, that the things that come natural are A, easier, B, not forced, C, not manipulated. There is a intuitiveness, there is a naturalness, there is probably the only word that I would pull out of everything here is a consciousness. When I was learning other things, I was unconscious to my own naturalness. Now, I also believe that when I was learning something that was a natural gift, it came easier. It came with more pleasure or more satisfaction or more sense of fulfillment. And at a younger age, I wasn't necessarily discerning between the two. It's like, no, I have to learn this. I have to learn world history. I have to learn, you know, whatever subject matter was there in high school or university in order to graduate. And the other part of it that goes back to a saying that Joseph Campbell's always been credited for, you know, follow your bliss, follow your bliss. And in that simple statement, there's a sense of what that shows up in my work life is that when I try to do this work and I didn't like it, then I was tending to, you know, get away from that and try something else. You know, I mean, yeah, because this didn't satisfy my heart and soul. I couldn't have put those words to it at the time when I was 17 years old or 27 years old or so on, but there's a sense of pleasure. There's a sense, it doesn't mean that my life gets easier necessarily. It doesn't mean I don't have to deal with struggle. It doesn't have to mean I don't deal with the sense of loss, sense of regret and all of those kinds of things. But when I am doing things that I am naturally good at, I tend to do more of those. I tend to spend more time with those than I do with things that I don't like. And that, I think, is part of that natural be yourself. And oh, by the way, be yourself comes into play for me. There's a sense of, yeah, I like me when I'm here. I like the state of being that I'm being in when I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing with the tools that I've been dealt from, you know, my creator. And so from that standpoint, the developmental part of it is much more rapid. I mean, going from awareness that conceptual thinking, for example, is one of my natural gifts and talents that I could not necessarily have articulated at 25. And yet I had that. And if I think back on it, it's like, oh yeah, I could connect dots, and I could see things. I'll give you a tangible example of that in a workspace. I came into a very disorganized workspace. And it was a company that was growing rapidly. I mean, it was like going Mach 3 into oblivion. They're just, things were happening so quickly. And I could actually see in my mind the work processes and where they were being disruptive right now, or not particularly well designed. And I could see the things that needed to happen right now, and I could see things that needed to happen in 6 months. I could see things that would need to be in place a year from now, based on a rapid progression of the company's growth. And I thought, well, everybody could do that. The last guy just didn't bother to do that. Well, truth is, the last guy had other gifts, but that was not one of them in terms of conceptual thinking, not even tangible things, but a workflow, a work process that was intangible, that was obvious to me. Now, fast forward 15 years, yeah, okay, so that was conceptual thinking. I'm good at it. I've always been good at it. And now that I can put a word to it, and then I can say, okay, so yeah, what can I do to even further improve that? What can I further develop that? And the development process is like an exponential curve that gets better and better as I focus more on that. So I'll stop talking. You bring the concept of naturalness to this, Vivek. Anything else you want to say about that?
Just this, coach, that when it's like I'm not conscious that I'm breathing. And so when that natural gift, well, let me just say that training and developing it gives us the words to maybe express and package the gift better. But the gift it's a gift. It's not going to come from a book or anything. That's expanding on its own, at its own Mach 3 speed. And then there comes a point when the doing is over. That state of flow comes in. There's no more doing.
Yeah.
I think that's the litmus test. That okay, that's the place when I didn't do anything. So I like that because it's a checkpoint that, am I in the right zone? Am I in the right space? How was my experience? If there was no experience and it just went through, then I was in the right space. If I had an experience to remember, it means that my ego was present.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Let me get either Sunny or Charles to come in, weigh in on this idea of natural gifts and talents. How are they shown up for you, not shown up for you? How do you hold them? Do you hold them at all? Do you consciously develop them? Charles, yeah?
No, I was going to say, go ahead, Sunny. I'm processing stuff, and I'm afraid some stuff may spill over, not as relevant as what Sunny's about to share.
Okay. Congressman from the great state of Illinois has gifted you with his time. We'll go to India to do it. Oops, hold on here. There we go. Hey, Sunny.
Hello. So, I missed on the initial thing, but I was referring to the book. One of the interesting things which I saw, and I am surprised because the moment I read or heard even Vivek, I'm like, okay, I have not paid much attention to the natural gifts and talents. And I was looking at my self-discovery and I was like, the more I am using the natural gifts and talents, the more I feel I'm connected to my value. So it's, and I was like kind of thinking about the process of how we get to it. You know, you get to the effortlessness, then you get to the timelessness, and then you see the joy. And all those are true for my value as well.
Yeah.
So if I'm able to articulate my talents or strengths which I have, they kind of deeply show me things which I have somewhere showcased in my life and felt all those things like timelessness, effortlessness, and joy, but kind of ignored them and moved on and thought, okay, this is what I have to do. And then in bits and pieces, they all showcase, but that's not really something which I have been doing very deliberately. And having it written, I think, gives me a chance to keep doing it more consciously. So I think coaching then helps to become a way of consciously utilizing the fruit, as we put it in that tree of life, and then give it to the world to eat it rather than fall it down and, you know, just nourish whatever the soil it is. But the real purpose of the fruit is that somebody else eats it and really cherishes it. So I think by having consciously doing that is something which I am in the attempt. But I'm just surprised that, you know, reading the book itself, I was like, oh, I didn't think of the natural gifts and talents like that. And I was in my own mind thinking about something to take to my coach about an opportunity which I got recently, and I am not very committed to it.
Mm.
The reason being that it is not having the ask from me is again a lot of those talents which I have to acquire rather than being natural.
Yeah.
And you know, I keep struggling whether I need to do that, because sometimes you need to over put your will behind learning new skills and trying to do that. So I was in that space, but I'm going to again reflect this and take it back to my coach and see what is my mind saying or what my heart is saying about this opportunity. So I think that's the conscious way of applying it, and I'll do it. Another quote which I just want to say, Peter, this is a uh, Doha from Kabir, which says, so Kabir is a philosopher and it's in a different language. It says, um, बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ जैसे पेड़ खजूर पंक्ति को छाया नहीं फल लागे अति दूर. So basically in English it means that even if you're big, it does not matter. Like the palm tree, because if a traveler is walking past, your height will not give him the shade. So it is better to be a tree which is full of laden fruits and is able to give those shade and those fruits to a person. So that is also which I thought about these natural gifts and talents.
Well, it's a couple of profound things there. That the tie-in and the connection with life purpose is 100% for me. The tie-in and connection with the core values. So that the three of these, the trilogy of core values, core strengths, and core purpose are all connected in the same. It's like three winds of a rope, you know, that has three threads that are, you know, put together to make it strong. They function together. They are. Let me put it differently. In order for me to live and contribute the fullness of my life purpose, I will use every single natural gift and talent. Okay, that's kind of precept number one. Precept number two is, if I am true to my life purpose, I do not need any other gifts and talents other than the natural gifts and talents. It's like a 100% bundle. I've given you, this is what I imagine my God would say to me if he spoke English. I think my God speaks Hindi actually, but anyhow, my God, if he did speak English, would say, Peter, I've given you all the tools that you need to have in order to accomplish your life purpose. You don't need anything else. The other one in terms of, and every human, I believe every human being is absolutely 100% unique. So you have gifts and talents and a purpose that's different than mine. And so some of us are palm trees that, you know, or a coconut tree that will provide a coconut and have it fall down and have it, you know, be food and drink for whoever's there to benefit from that. And others of us will be that shorter tree that has nice shade that allows the growth underneath that to feed the animals that need to graze from the ground or eat the acorns or fruit from the tree that fall down. Different purposes, different, they look different. They have different talents. And it's all a harmonious ecosystem that come together when we honor ourselves and don't try to be something that I'm not. Don't try to develop a skill or talent that I have no passion for. Is it a waste of time? I hate to say that. And maybe there's some things that I need to learn in order to unlearn them later, or need to have a reverence for those that are natural. I don't know. But I know that I am individually nourished to a greater degree when I am being true to myself, utilizing my natural gifts and talents, my core values, my life purpose, you know, the whole enchilada. So one of the questions I have for you, Sunny, is have you added or changed any of your natural gifts and talents since you first kind of, if you will, rediscovered them back? It's been several years now, I know, for you. But have other ones come to light or been added to you on your list?
From which reference point do you mean, Peter?
From the first time that we went through self-discovery and you referred back to that sheet, have you added some that weren't necessarily that didn't come into awareness at that stage over the course of the last several years?
Two. So I did last year my self-discovery process.
Okay.
And in that 1 year, it came to which I have added onto my sheet. One was sincerity and the other non-attached.
Nice.
And
Nice.
I was quite, in fact, it came up in a discussion where I told my coach that since, you know, the word came out sincerity, and I was like, oh, but why is not there in my talents? And I was curious why it did not come out through that exercise. But then I added it because I feel that is like a core strength. And then later I also added non-attached because I similarly felt.
Nice.
In the values particularly, I had one value, no addition of value, but I elaborated on a value, its meaning for me, because I did not associate with it that much. So it was accomplished like the word, but then I made it accomplished as my future self. Then it made sense.
Wow.
So something like that.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing that up because that's not uncommon, especially for gifts and talents. The exercise that we take you through, or in the CoreSELFtech, you know, anybody that's listening to this for the first time, you can access a process that you can access your core values, your life purpose, your natural gifts and talents, all of that on a process that's for free. It's available to the public at www.CoreSELFie, SELFIE.com, CoreSELFie.com. So it's not uncommon that in that, especially the shorter version that we have in the CoreSELFie, that you would be adding words that come to you in terms of your way of being, that is your life, your core values, or in the case of what we're talking about today, in terms of core strengths, that there will be ones that are maybe come to highlight or consciousness after you've done it. And feel free to add that, because I believe that everybody has more than 5 is what we typically shoot for in the short version. But you may have 15, 20, 25, 30 core strengths that are natural to you, not learned or you had to learn them, but natural to you, that add them to the list. Yeah. Yeah. Charles, I want to get your voice in here. What's on your thoughts, brother?
Well, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, there are 4 siblings that I see here, not just 3, Mr. Elder Brother. The first thing I heard when I came on was we're wasting 90% of our inherent potential, essentially, which I believe, the psychologists have said most of us don't use more than 5 or 10% of our inherent potential. And I've learned from participation in some of the top development training companies that they target the top 10% of the world because they have the money and they understand the value of lifelong learning. And my focus has been around expanding the circle of success for education, entrepreneurship, enlightenment, empowerment, right?
Amen.
So being with you on Tuesdays can be depressing and it can be uplifting, And so I'm looking at self-mastery. Why the hell is that foreign language in the United States of America? I can't speak about other worlds, but having come off of this intensive focus on what was World Unity Week, which is launching something much bigger. Hundreds of organizations were behind World Unity Week. Thousands of organizations are behind the 40th International Celebration of World Peace Week in September, when we can roll out again the CoreSELFie. And I haven't even had time to look at my own programs, much less the 6 that you created, right? It's been that morphogenetic. But I'm seeing these 21 principles are just the next level of the awakening process to help people move up that scale from, it's okay for self-discovery. It brings to heart and mind not only expanding the circle of success, a little campaign we did on one of the GoFundMe campaigns with USA Today and Gannett News, but one of my core strengths is discernment or optimization or seeing the inherent potential. Now, it's taken me a little while to appreciate the fact that some people don't appreciate the fact that I've been able to point out to them where they're screwing up. Where they have a little bit of potential for enhancement. It's happened with organizations, and I look back on careers like with the HUD disaster program, where I kept being fired and rehired because I was asking why the African Americans didn't have the same rights as the white folks. It's like the willingness to be able to stand up in the face of resistance, hatred because of some revelation being shared, right? So I've recently decided to step back from the Living Earth movement because they're kind of like, they don't understand why they ought to participate in World Unity Week. They have an agenda. They want to do what they had planned to deliver. And I said, what? So I've just appreciating even more clearly the gifts and talents that you not only possess, but how positively, brilliantly you have articulated them, published them, produced them, shared them so generously with humankind. So I am renewing my application for Charter Lifetime Membership as an ambassador, along with my brothers here, your other brothers, and applying for the upgrade to these principles so that we can do in September the same kind of thing, just offering them. You can't, well, they say you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, you can certainly look at every conceivable way to help people awaken to who we are, the inherent potential. It's like, I love the acres of diamonds in the rough, but who is not an acres of diamonds in the rough? It's all right here. It's like your Hindu guide tells you, and probably has to remind you, you have everything you need to fulfill your ultimate destiny, right? So when are you going to start? I mean, not you, but you know what I'm talking about. So thanks for letting me vent on. I love you all. I deeply appreciate this opportunity. I'm thrilled to be able to be back, right? So thank you.
And thank you for the introduction and facilitating last week's. And for those of you, those are all on YouTube as well, available to the public. World Unity Week, and there was hundreds of other programs, if not thousands of other programs that were doing similar things in terms of how do we honor the planet better, how do we honor our fellow man, humankind better.
And it's got to start right here. Self-mastery, you have it right up. Exploring self-mastery. What small percentage of the global population would comprehend what the heaven that entails? And that is what we are, I mean, some of us, like me, believe we're here for. Right?
Amen.
So
Amen,
hurry
brother.
up, world, catch up with Peter. Let's be positively brilliant. Let's go to India and, let's do some good works.
Everyone's welcome home.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Move
Yeah.
over.
You got home here. You got home here.
Well, be careful because I'm looking.
Oh, wow. I love your enthusiasm. I love your energy. I love your vitality. I love who your creator created you to be, Charles, and to be that advocate for the rest of us, that there's so much more available. We don't have to even go outside and look for it. It's
Right here.
look inside. Harvest that which we have been sowed with so graciously by our creators. There was a couple of other points in terms of natural gifts and talents that I wanted to share, and that's a sense of, let me just change this back.
Peter, I have a question as well.
Yeah, Sonny, go ahead with your question.
So this is regarding the use of the natural gifts and talents, and
Yeah.
whether we overuse or underuse. So we know the A and B, which is an underuse, but if you could talk both about the underuse and the overuse, it would be great.
Sure. I don't think you can overuse your natural gifts and talents personally. I think for me, it's more of a sense of to what degree am I maximizing my natural gifts and talents. I think that people, I'll use an I statement here. Without knowing and articulating what they are, I can sometimes get confused, and I have gotten confused in terms of employing a learned talent and trying to develop that more, as opposed to developing one of my natural gifts and talents. So I think it comes in a raw form at birth or before birth, but it's my responsibility to develop it or not develop it, be conscious of it or not be conscious of it. I've often said to learning and development people in my own organization, as well as others that I've been in, conferences or a speaker at. If you take $1 and want to invest it into the development of your employee or yourself, and you have them specifically go to a program in order to be a better communicator, a better engineer, a better organizer, a better whatever that you want them to be in terms of their job, but it happens to not be their natural gift and talent, for that $1, you'll be rewarded with 1 penny's worth of betterment. So you'll get 1% back from that investment. If you take that same dollar and invest it into an employee and invest it into their natural gifts and talents. So A, they need to know what that is. B, you need to know what those are. But you say, look at, one of your natural gifts and talents is musicality. I want to invest $1 into you becoming a better musician. Study music, study the instrument of your choice, study the rhythms that come to you naturally. Then you will get back tenfold, maybe 100-fold from that $1 investment. You're going to get $100 of benefit back to you, that individual, and to your organization. I've seen it happen over and over again. So from that standpoint, you can't overdevelop it. You can't overutilize it. The issue for me mostly is the underdevelopment, is the underutilization. And so whenever I'm in a coaching session with a client, it's like, okay, so what natural gifts and talents will you be able to use in the 3 options that are in front of you? Let's say they have three options that they're considering. What core values will you be able to be in that? What, the second one and the third one, same question. What core values will you be able to be, you'll be honored for? You'll be naturally able to bring your way of being into those 3 positions or jobs or opportunities. Same thing with natural gifts and talents. What your whole list of natural gifts and talents, let's say that there's 15 of them. To what degree will you be able to employ, utilize, do each of those different things and the opportunities that are in front of you? Now, the other factor that comes into this is compensation and the reality of I need to pay for my mortgage. I got 3 kids going through university. I've got major bills to pay for the standard of living that my family has come to appreciate, and I want to provide to them. So an individual might consciously say, yeah, well, opportunity A pays me twice as much as opportunity B and C put together, so I have to do that. And do that with an awareness and consciousness. And I don't, as a professional coach, I don't say, well, do you really want to do that? They choose after they've raised the level of awareness. Yeah, I'll be able to use, I'll be able to do 10% of my life purpose and use 20% of my natural gifts and talents and 20% of my values, let's say. And let them learn from that. That may be their life lesson this lifetime. You know, to not fully utilize what they've been gifted or endowed with. More often than not, because they've made that conscious decision consciously, they come back in short order. I mean, within months, and I'm talking about someone that has maybe been in a major major career for 25 years, and within 6 months he or she comes back and says, I can't do this any longer. It's just too arduous. It's too hard. It's sucking my soul. It feels, give you my own personal metaphor, is like at what? I've been in like 36, maybe 37. And I was in the medical business. So the metaphor that I use is like, you know, it's like putting a proverbial syringe into my soul and sucking it out is the way I felt at the end of each day. It's like, who wants to live like that? So I don't know if that answered. Sonny, does that come close to answering your question, or is that off on 10?
It does, thank you.
Thank you. And that's really the thing I wanted to share anyhow, in terms of investing time, energy, money, consciousness, awareness. You'll get 100-fold back in investing in those things that God put there in the first place. Your creator, whatever you call your creator, the universe, higher power. Highly encourage you to do that. And if you're investing time now because you're supposed to learn more about this, that, or the other, and it brings you no joy as you're learning it and developing it, I give you full permission to take it and toss it. There you go. All right, I think we're at time. We are at time. Holy cow, that flew by in an hour. That's amazing. My three fellow brothers here from around the world, thank you so much. God bless you. Next week I'm traveling, but I'm still going to be back here the day after 4th of July, which is big festivities here in the US, but not necessarily the rest of the world. So I am dedicated to be here on the 5th of July, and I'll be doing it from Texas. We'll see how that works out. So God bless. Namaste. Be safe. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.